Hi everyone, welcome to Papa's Workshop. You know the month of November is right around the corner. And for my family, that means a ton of birthdays. So today what I'm doing is turning this Victorian Twist Pen Kit by Penn State Industries. So I'm going to show you how I do it today. Let's get started. I cut the pen blank where it'd be just slightly larger than the brass tube itself. And I was a little bit concerned with this material being white and somewhat opaque that it would actually show the brass through the resin. So because of that, I went ahead and spray painted it white. I used the Rust-Oleum appliance epoxy. And I put one coat on, and I had to let it completely dry before I wanted to move on to the next step. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and mix some epoxy now and put these tubes in. So even though this is the 5-minute epoxy, I usually go ahead and do this at night and let it sit overnight so it's completely dry. So all I'm going to do is just pour out equal amounts. And I'll stir good, mix it up really, really well. And I want to put a pretty heavy coat on because I want to make sure that I have good coverage. And I'll just slide it right into the opening. And I want to push it all the way through because I want to make sure that there's plenty of epoxy on the other end too, because it actually has a tendency to get scraped off as it goes into the hole. There we go. Then I'll slide it back in, take off the excess there. Then I'll take the point of the awl and just slide it in where it's even all the way around. And just wipe off the excess glue. And there we go, the first one's done. And I'll just set that aside now and let it dry. And we'll go ahead and get this second one done. Make sure that we have good coverage on this side. And we'll slide it back in. And we'll do the same thing. We'll push that right on through so it's recessed below the surface on each end that way. We'll wipe off the excess. And then tomorrow, we'll go ahead and square these ends up, put them on the lathe, and we'll get them turned for this pen. Okay, it's the next morning, and this epoxy is completely dry. The next thing that I have to do is actually cut the end of this blank so it is completely perpendicular to the metal tube. And to do that, I use this tool, and this will slip inside of the brass tubing for a fairly snug fit. Here's a little bit of room. And then this cutter will actually cut down into the resin and make that perfectly square. That's very important to do. You can't skip this step or the pen will not go together correctly. And all I'm going to do is just slip this into my jig clamp it down so it'll hold it securely. Then I'm going to go over to the drill press and drill out each end so that these ends are completely flat and 90 degrees, and they are cut right down to the brass tubing. That'll give the correct size of the blank. Now these blanks for this particular pen kit are literally the smallest blanks that I think I have ever used for a pen. Okay, I've got everything set up. I'm just going to go ahead and drill that now. I haven't shown this process in detail before, but I wanted to let you see it now. It's very, very shallow passes on this to be able to cut this resin. Otherwise, it'll chip out. Now you can see I take very, very shallow passes on this because I want that to remain smooth and I don't want it torn. The other thing you can see is I stopped just as soon as I saw that shiny edge of the brass. That means I'm right down to that point. You don't want to go any further. So now I'll flip this over and we'll do the other end. And there we go. I can just begin to see that little brass edge there. So that's the stopping point. Now I'll go ahead and do the second one now. And I'll do that one off camera. Now I have the blanks onto the lathe ready to start doing the cutting. But I wanted to show you that these blanks are so short that I needed to use quite a few of the spacers. So these are the 7mm spacers that I'm using, and I have 4 at each end. You know, this pen blank is for the Victorian Pen Kit, and these bushings are specifically for this one. It allows you to be able to turn this blank down to this point to get the exact diameter that you need. The pen blank that I'm using is the Rhino Snowball. This was 7/8 by 7/8 by 5 inches. Very hard material, and you have to take very slow passes on this. I'm starting out with a gouge to be able to just do the initial roughing of this pen blank to get it down round. And then, because of the type of material this is, the best results come from using a very sharp carbide bit. Once I get the blank almost down to the finished size, I switch over and grab the round carbide tip tool, and that allows me to do some very fine detail and shaping that I need to be able to do that I couldn't do with the square flat carbide tip tool. The turning itself now with the tools is completely done, and looking at the close detail you can see that it actually looks quite good, and it's a beautiful material. It's time to begin the sanding process now. I'm starting with the 80 grit sandpaper, and what this allows me to do is really do that final little small shaping that I need to be able to do that I couldn't quite get done with the tools itself. Now I'm going to work through all the different grits from the 80 to the 100, 150, and so on up to 500, and that's going to be with the dry paper. As you go through the different grits, one of the things that you will notice that as you sand, you will create some very fine lines in the blanks. This is important between each grate to actually stop and then take and sand lengthwise on the blank itself to be able to eliminate these little marks. And doing this will make a huge difference in the overall end result of the blank. Now it's time to switch over to the sanding pads, and this allows me to go all the way up to 13,000. Now this is wet sanding, and it makes it where you can get a super high gloss finish just with the sanding. Again, this is using the wet, and I wipe off the blanks each time I change to a different sanding disc. Very, very important, because that residue, if it's left on there, will actually affect the quality of the sanding. Now what I'm doing is actually using this Plastex, and this is for the car headlights, and it does an absolute fantastic job on cleaning, polishing, and bringing out a brilliant shine. It doesn't take much, but just a little dab on the paper towel, and I usually do 2 to 3 coats with this material. Now this is the protectant coating that goes on top of this, and that actually will help seal it, and it maintains a perfect clarity on this, so the beauty of the blank will actually show through. And this is also UV protection, so that'll make this pen last for a long time. Again, a very, very small quantity is all that's needed to be able to polish these blanks. These blanks look absolutely fantastic. All right, time to assemble the kit. Again, this is the Victorian Twist Pen Kit from Penn State Industries that I'm using today. And what I want to do before I assemble it is lay out all the parts so I know exactly how it should go together. To be able to put this pen together, I want to show you the different parts. And this is the tip of the pen, and it has the threads on it. And this little tip coupler has the threads here. So that will thread on to that part. But I want to keep it separate at this point, because I'm going to go ahead and press fit that into it first. And this little coupler will slide in right here. Now, this little coupler is also threaded, and the mechanism that makes this pen work, a twist pen, actually screws on to this. And then once we have that done, we have this center band that will go on right here. That will be pressed fit in. And then the pen clip and the top of the pen will get pressed in. So these are the various components on how it all goes together. So now it's time to assemble the pen. And I like laying everything out this way, because that way you know exactly how it goes together, and you don't make a mistake by putting the wrong part in the wrong place, because it's a whole lot easier to do it right the first time rather than having to deal with taking the pen apart to fix a mistake. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and press fit this one in. And there we go. That fits on there perfectly. Now the next thing, I said we had to put this coupler into it. So I'll put the coupler in. Just like that. To go ahead and screw the tip on. Now we'll slide this into here. Then we'll take this mechanism and screw it into position. There we go. Now the next thing we'll do is take this and press it in place. Perfect. That's looking really good. And the last thing, there is no placement that I need to worry about because that blank is just so pretty. But I'm going to put it right there. Slip one of these out. Put it right in here. And there we go. That is beautiful. That slides down onto there. And there is a completed pen. And you twist it to be able to open it. Ready to write. And then we'll just close it. Hi everyone, thank you for watching my video today. If you like the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below and the little bell next to it so you'll be notified on the different videos that I upload. Also check out the videos over here to be able to stay up to date on the happenings in my shop. So again, thank you for watching my videos.